Oh, hey guys. So I was just reminiscing on my, just like songwriting and shit like this. So first, let's go to this video here. I think this shit's funny, dude. Watch this shit. So you're gonna see right here. You see the drum kit is empty, right? So what I'm doing is I'm pushing play on my little handheld recorder that has this guitar track recorded in it. So I have this little recorder plugged into my PA system. And so when I push play on the recorder, it plays that riff through my PA system. And I give myself a 1, 2, 3, 4 count to give me enough time to run over to the drum kit, right? I think this shit's funny. And then once I get to the kit, then I've got a little bit of time to get the drum to just start the drums with the guitar track. And so this is my way of fleshing out the drum parts for these songs that I was writing. This shit's hilarious. Watch. See? So you can hear the 1, 2, 3. So anyway, I don't know. I just think that shit's funny. I got a couple of videos where I'm doing that. But that's how I would work my songs and shit. Let me turn the fan off here. Let me get the lighting, since this is gonna be a boring video anyways. I need to turn the fan down. But this was like a different thing. This was a different kind of music project for me. I mean, because I've been in bands before, right? I've been in bands where they already had a bunch of songs written, that's easy for me, a lot easier for me, because then all I have to do is figure out, well, what do you want me to play on the bass, And the more direction, see, if the band has a really clear idea of the sound they want, then it's easy for me. So, my main instrument being bass guitar, which is really the only instrument I ever wanted to play. Like if a band needed a bass player and I wanted to play in that band, the more clear of an idea that they have for what they want my bass riffs to sound like, the better for me and the easier for me. Because then I don't have to, it's just easier. So if they already have a clear idea of what they want, then that's easy. And I don't have I like that. I like that because then it frees me up to, it frees me up. Like it's less of a burden on me. And so I never had I always liked it when the band already had a clear idea of what they wanted the bass to sound like, right? And because I always found that to be so much easier for me, I just figured everybody's kind of similar in that regard. That if it's already clear what the band wants, then it's less of a burden. It's easy, right? And so a lot of the bands that I played in, they already knew what they wanted their bass to sound like, because I can do like different styles. I can do like slap and pull shit, and so but for example, if I'm in a band and I'm just fucking around at band practice and I've got some slap and pull idea that I think would be cool or funny for that song,
you know, and then they're like, dude, I don't like that slap and pull shit. Well, then I know. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. I don't care. You know, whatever. What do you want? What do you prefer? Like, what were you thinking, you know? What was your vision, you know? I always love to get input on the vision of the band. The more I understand the vision of the band, the better for everyone, including me. And so I just assume like that's the way bands function, and that's the way band members function. Me being naive, me being me, right? So but this project, like where you saw me on the drums and shit, like that's my project. And how that project started was I was just writing riffs that I thought would be good for a band that I was in. And I mean, I was coming up. It's the most musically inspired I've ever been. Was when there was this one band that I was in, and it inspired me so much. Like every day, I'm coming up with a new song idea, and I'm like stacking up these song ideas, right? And so at some point, I was just like, I decided, well, I better show them to the guys because, you know, I mean, and I was like, no pressure. I'm not pushing them on you, but like, here's a bunch of riffs that we could use if you guys want, because they sound like they fit the style that we're going for in this band. And like, I'm so inspired by this band, by the band that I'm playing with you guys in, that I can't help but these riffs are just like coming out of nowhere. And so here, have them. If you want them, here they are. And if you don't, no worries. I don't care. But they're just gonna keep coming because I don't know why. Here's all these riffs. Any of them that you want, go for it, right? So I'm like coming up with tons of riffs. And they liked them. But we already had we were a new band. We had 7 songs. We were trying to like really refine those songs. And so, you know, even though everybody liked these ideas, we were still just like in earlier stages, right? And anyways, and then that band ended up having to break up because the front man, he ended up landing a sweet deal with some crazy shit that I've talked about before. But and so as a result, there was no more band. He had to move, he had to relocate and all this stuff. And so then I have all these song ideas, and I'm like, shit. But I liked them; they were cool, and I couldn't stop, you know, whatever. But anyways, so that's how my project started. And really, what happened is, you know, later on down the line, I was hanging out with the guitar player in that band, and I was like, dude, you check out these. I wrote these songs. Well, I was talking to him and he wanted to hear him. And I was like, okay. So I showed him to him and he was tripping out. He's like, dude, these are fucking badass songs. I'm like, really? You think so? And he's like, fuck yeah. He's like, dude, you need to start a band with this shit. And I had never even thought about that. I was just doing it for fun. But when he said that, I had never even thought about that. And I'm like, you think so? And he's like, fuck yeah, dude. But he was more into grindcore. Like, he was a grindcore guitar player. Like, he's super into grindcore. And this was all strictly like, all these songs I was writing were like purist stoner doom metal. They were not grindcore at all. And he already had his own band. He had already started his own band. And it was, of course, a grindcore band, right? But he was tripping out. He's like, dude, you need to start a band with this shit. And I hadn't even thought of that. And so then I'm like, oh, I think you're right. You know, I was like, oh shit. So then that's when I got serious, right? So anyways, so when this video where I'm playing the drums, let's do a little more clip. Let's do a little more just to for fun, right? For fun. So here it is. I think this is fun.
Yeah. So anyways, so that's me working on one of these songs. And that one's like an epic song. That one was like a fucking like a 13-minute song or something. And I had lyrics for it, and so but the drums is always like the hardest. And so, but see, like I didn't have any band members yet, but I had a very specific and clear vision of what I wanted the sound of the band to be. And so I knew, like, in a general way, what the drums ought to sound like with these guitar riffs. But because I'm not like a drummer, I just figured if I get the general fucking idea of the drum parts down, then a drummer would listen to the general idea and be able to get get a clear vision of like, oh, okay, I know what you're going for here. And then they could take that general idea because they're a drummer and like totally fucking like, hone in on it and get because I'm not a drummer. So I can like do a general idea. Okay, this is the kind of idea I'm going for. And then a real drummer would be like, I hear what you're doing. I can fill in the blanks where you're not able. I can fill in the blanks where you're not able to put them in because you're not a drummer, but I hear exactly what you want. And that's what I was doing, right? So I was just like getting the general drum idea down. That way it saves the drummer a lot of time and it saves everybody a lot of time. And because like I said, like I played bass in a lot of bands, and it was always so much easier when the band could tell me, when the band had a pretty clear general idea of what they wanted the bass to sound like. The more clear of the idea that their vision was of what the song as a whole they wanted it to sound like, including the bass parts and shit, the more clear their vision was, the better for me. And so as I'm doing, that's what my whole idea was about, like writing the drum parts and everything, is to get so that whatever bandmate came in, they had a clear idea of the general vision of the sound, right? And so that's all I was doing. Now, if you've ever watched the movie Spinal Tap, you know the joke about the drummer? How the drummers would always spontaneously combust and they would just explode. And Spinal Tap was always having a drummer problem. See, this is the law. This is one of the laws of nature when it comes to bands. And Spinal Tap perfectly illustrates this in this movie. That illustration is art imitating life. There's a reason that in the movie Spinal Tap, the band Spinal Tap was always having a problem with drummers, and the drummer would just randomly, spontaneously combust in the middle of a show, and then they'd have to find a new drummer. Like, there's just something about drummers. There's a joke. There's a joke about drummers too. What person in the band is not a musician? And it's the drummer, or something like a joke like that, what music instrument in a band is not a real musician, And then it's like, the drummer. Like drummers were always the ones that had a problem. Okay. And I've talked about this, so these songs that I'm posting, the producer Billy Anderson was set to record us, like record and produce our album. Okay, this is what happened. Billy Anderson produced albums like Sleep's albums, Melvin's albums, Neurosis albums. Like, Billy Anderson is one of the fucking cornerstones of the entire fucking stoner doom metal, genre, dude. Like fucking 50% of all the greatest stoner doom albums of all time were recorded and produced by Billy Anderson, bro. And so this motherfucker Billy Anderson heard the demo. These are the demo songs that I'm publishing on this channel. He heard the band demo and agreed that he would fly out from Oregon and record us in my studio that you see in that video of me playing the drums. He's gonna fly out and record the band and produce the album to where like we would have a fucking record with album art, and once that happened, like if you're in a band, if you're in a stoner doom metal band, like any of the, like Sleep, Electric Wizard, these are stoner doom metal bands. Sleep, Electric Wizard, those are like some of the main ones. Dude, you cannot get a better deal than for Billy Anderson to listen to your demo and agree to fly out to where you are and record your band to press it to a fucking record. It doesn't get any better than that, dude. Like, that means that what's next is tours and possibly, even more than possible, fucking like European tours, where you have you're selling your records at concerts, opening for bands like fucking Graveyard or fucking, Red Fang or whatever. That means shit is going. When Billy Anderson is gonna fly out to your fucking place from another state to record your demo album, that means that you better put your fucking seatbelt on and you better be ready to start playing some fucking shows. Like, you might have to take some time off of work because, in 5 months or so, you're gonna be getting booked on a month or two long European tour with fucking Graveyard or something. Like, I'm not even kidding you, dude. You don't get a better deal than that if you're in a fucking stoner doom metal band. Is that Billy Anderson is gonna come record you. Like, it's retarded, dude. So guess what happened? It's the Spinal Tap effect is what happened. The drummer all of a sudden wants to change up the songs because he doesn't like the drum parts. And I'm like, bro, dude, Billy Anderson listened to the demo and he wants to record the songs that he heard on the demo. We need to just play the songs that were written. And you see, what it was with the drummer is that it was the drummer's ego. Because he started looking at this like, oh my gosh, what if somebody finds out that I didn't write these drum parts? What if somebody finds out that Angry Hobo was the one that wrote the drum parts? Well, then it's gonna, look bad on me. Or what, like, total like, no, bro, this is for the music. It's not about us. We can write songs together all day. But these are the songs that we're playing. The drummer listened to my demo and liked the songs and joined the band in agreement of playing the songs. That was the whole deal. He saw that my demo was getting shopped around and that I'm looking for a drummer. He clicked on the demo. He listened to the songs on the demo. He reached out to me and contacted me and said, yes, I like these songs. I want to play these songs. You know, and I was like, cool, let's jam. Let's meet up, you know, and see what happens. And then he came in and he played the songs at first and was like, okay. And he realized that some of this stuff, these drum parts are not conventional drum parts. But he said there's no problem. He enjoyed the fact that these drum parts are not conventional because it pushes him to learn things outside of his comfort zone. And all it will do is expand his skills as a drummer. And I was like, great, that is great. And so he agreed to all this. And so then he would show up to band practice, and sometimes he would play the songs, but that's because he was practicing at home and learning these unconventional parts. But then other times later on, he would show up and he's not playing the song, and that's because he's resting on his laurels. He lost interest in learning the songs and just wanted to be able. And it's like, and I'd have to stop and be like, dude, this is not, the drum parts that you're playing are changing the sound of this song to where it doesn't even sound like the same song. And at some point he got butthurt. It hurt his pride that I would have to stop in the middle of the song and be like, bro, what you're playing on the drums is totally changing the entire sound of the song. And I'm like, you were playing the parts fine, the last two practices, I don't know what's going on. And at first he's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, you're right. And then he would correct it. But then as time went on, it was an ongoing thing. Like sometimes I would stop and be like, bro, I don't know what's going on. I mean, what's happening? You know, I mean, we played these songs before, but now you're playing instead of the drum beat being behind the beat like it's written, you're placing the bass drum beat in front of it when it's supposed to be behind it, and it's changing the whole song. Yeah, and after a while. Well, and then Billy Anderson listens to our demo, and he's like, "Dude, I'm gonna come out and fly out and record this." And it's like, "Holy fuck, what the fuck, right?" And so then we need to really start practicing. Okay, we're gonna have to increase our band practice to like twice a week or maybe 3 times a week. You know? And everybody was like, "Fuck yeah, Billy Anderson!" You know, there's only 3 people in the band: me, the bass, and the drums. But we're all like totally like, fuck yeah, bro. And so we increase band practice, and the drummer is still like shifting the beat around and putting the bass drum beat ahead when it's supposed to be behind, and I have to keep stopping like, bro, what the fuck? And then finally it became like it's an argument. He got upset. I'm not upset. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And he gets upset, and he's like, bro, are you a drummer? And I'm like, no. And he says, I am. So just let me play the drums. And I'm like, okay, bro, but the thing is you already agreed to play the songs as they're written. And that's what you agreed when you came into this band. And so, like, if you agreed to play the songs as they're written, why are you changing the parts? And so then it became a debate, right? And the guy is like ready to fly out. Billy Anderson is already, he hasn't bought the plane ticket yet, but he's like already committed. Like, yes, he's going to be flying out soon. And so we just need to coordinate. In the meantime, we're practicing. And then the fucking drummer just quits. And he doesn't even quit to my face. The guy playing the bass had to tell me. Yeah, he decided, it's not really for him. And I'm like, wow. You see, this is the way shit goes down. And I don't hold anything against the guy playing the drum. Like, he's a cool dude, right? But you see, there's people that they really, when success really comes knocking, they don't want to answer the door. They're like, nope. Because they're comfortable with the life they have. And so, like, if Billy Anderson comes knocking on your door because he likes what you're doing and he's ready to record and produce your album, you're at a crossroads right there. Because now you have two choices. You can either take your band to the next level and beckon the call, like open the door of opportunity, or you can just decide you're already comfortable where you're at, with your 9-to-5 job and just playing bands as like a hobby in town. And that's it. You're at a crossroad. And if you're in a band with 2 or 3 other people, and a record producer like Billy Anderson comes knocking at your door because they like what you're doing and want to drop your record, well, not only are you at a crossroad, so is every other band member. And if one of your band members just decides, you know what, I've never really been into doing this band except for just a hobby on the weekends to impress my friends, but if it's going to grow into this thing where, Billy Anderson is producing the album and we're going to be going on tour and stuff, I think I'll just pass on that. See, you got other band members. It's not just you anymore. And so when the drummer bailed out, it's like, well, that's it. Unless you can find another drummer like really fast. But, that's not as easy as you might think. Yeah. Going back to Spinal Tap's, the Spinal Tap phenomena of what do they call that? Spontaneous combusting drummer. The drummer that just spontaneously combusts randomly out of the blue for no reason. It's just poof. And all of a sudden you're without a drummer, dude. What are you going to do now? You're right in the middle of a tour and your drummer just spontaneously combusts right in the middle of a show. See, there's a reason Spinal Tap put that in that movie. There's a reason why in the movie Spinal Tap, about, every 45 minutes or so into the movie, or 30 minutes into the movie, the drummer will just randomly, spontaneously combust, because that's art imitating life. That's just what happens in real life, But then, Anyways, I kind of wanted to go more into the songwriting process, but that's me going through the songwriting process where I'm trying to flesh out the general vision of where I want the drums to go in this particular song. And that's what I did with all these songs. And again, I'm not trying to control the drummer. I'm just trying to make it easy for the drummer to give them a general idea of the sound of the drums. Because a drummer that's good, like I said, will be able to hear and be like, oh, I can hear what you're trying to do there. And I can do what you're trying to do. I can actually do that on an expert level. What you're trying to do, I can do that even better than what your vision is. I can make the vision of your song even better. And okay, so with that Chaosphere, okay? Chaosphere was one of the harder ones to record, and the reason is because that Chaosphere started leaning towards a old school Slayer. It was like stoner doom metal, but with the old school Slayer vibe. And towards the end of the song, it was like a mix with the song Black Sabbath, the end of the song Black Sabbath, and Slayer. So I needed Dave Lombardo riffs at the end of that song Chaosphere. When it goes dun 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 dun. You know, like that last half of the song, the third act of the song Chaosphere, that was like a Dave Lombardo kind of thing that I needed. And as you can see, I can't do a Dave Lombardo thing. But there are drummers that I know personally that can. But the thing is, they also spontaneously combust, just like in the movie Spinal Tap. But they can totally pull off like a Dave Lombardo fucking Slayer, you know, and just like totally shred, like thrash through that part. That was like a thrash part. The third act of the song Chaosphere was like thrash. That was me like trying to fuse thrash with stoner doom rock, you know. And you know, and like if we had recorded these songs, and if Billy Anderson had recorded these songs, they would sound like so much better. I mean, if you understand the production value, okay, production value, you know, well, let's see, like I don't know, any, you know, if you ever listen to the Melvins or Sleep, listen to the production value of, you know, of those albums, you know, like Dope Smoker, Sleep's album Dope Smoker. When you listen to that, it's like well produced, you know, whereas my demo is not well produced. I like the songs. I think they're cool songs. And if a producer could produce those songs well, like they would sound fucking dope, you know. And Billy Anderson produced Sleep's album Dope Smoker. So like listen to Dope Smoker and how well produced the album Dope Smoker is. And then imagine if those songs were produced as well as the Dope Smoker album was. Like that would be sick. And that's what I'm talking about, dude. Like we could have been playing shows with Sleep and shit, bro. You know? Like that band was getting that kind of buzz. You know, but you know, people are people. You know, people might just spontaneously combust from the pressure or something, you know. We're all fallible, including me and everybody else. And you know, but yeah, that was, and you know, but I still like that story. I think, you know, there's bragging rights to that story. I've got stories that are cool, you know. You know, I played in bands where we played shows with the Mentors. I've played in bands, we played shows with Extreme Noise Terror. You know, I played in a band that played with High on Fire. High on Fire is like, you know, arguably the best fucking heavy metal band in the world right now. You know, I was in a band that played a show with High on Fire, you know. You know, they're cool little stories, you know, they're just stories. But it's not like I'm making it up. I mean, why would I make it up? You know, I don't have any reason. I'm just a burnt out, you know, washed up musician, you know. I mean, I don't think I am. I don't think I'm a washed up musician. Like, you know, I could continue writing songs if I wanted to, and I could, you know, but, you know, life, you know, life, you know, we'll end it with this, I guess. It's a Chinese proverb that says, make friends with change, because change is the only thing in life that's constant. How about that for an ending? See you, boys.